Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. We are here to talk about Star Wars, the Acolyte series review tonight. And we have the forces of good and evil with us as well. Representing our good is our guest host tonight, Miss Jessica, or Jess maybe. What are you going by? Jessie? Jess? What do you want to be called?
As long as I'm not late for dinner.
Fair enough. Okay. And representing our evil side tonight, Justin up here, Joe's favorite podcast host. We're talking about
Just
Star Wars
extending my
this
lead.
week, but let's see what you guys have been up to. So this is interesting. We got husband and wife on here tonight, but let's see if they say the same thing. Some controversy here. So what have you guys been up to recently? What's been going on up in your neck of the woods up there?
You want to go first?
Sure, why not? Because I think I have enough I can say that's different from what you would, especially because it's been what 2-3 years since I last hosted. I mean, all the stuff that's happened lately has to have been spread out over this course of like a couple of years at least. There's no way all of the stuff going on in the country could have been compressed into a matter of a week or two, right?
Has there been some national news? Maybe I missed that. I don't.
uh, so aside from staving off existential dread, I actually for a while was dabbling in a couple of gotcha games, which if those of you listening at home, those are like free to play, games, usually action oriented, where a lot of the focus is on using the in-game currency or real money to try and get characters and stuff. I never really dipped my toes into these before, but I figured screw it. I don't think Chinese game companies are as much of a threat as anything the Heritage Foundation is drumming up. So why not see what all the fuss is about? I tried two of them. The first was the new thing from the Hoyoverse guys, Zenless Zone Zero, sort of a cyberpunky action sort of setup. And the other one was Snowbreak Containment Protocol, I think it was called, which is like a third-person shooter sort of thing. I stuck with each one for like a week. I don't get what the draw is for these aside from the anime waifu characters that you can unlock, and even that it's like, well, the gameplay is really basic, and I don't really see why people spend money on these or stick with them for any length of time.
Is this PC or mobile you're talking?
PC.
Okay.
So I mean, there are mobile versions of them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're really stylish, really flashy. But when you actually sit down to play them, it's just very by the numbers, very small levels, very small encounters, and just not really all that fun, I didn't think. So I've been dabbling in that. That's kind of been my escape from reality lately. Jesse, what about you?
Well, today I helped my dad with his honeybees. We were checking on the hives, seeing if they were capping honey and if they were still making brood, which they are. Both hives are healthy. Yeah, my dad's an amateur beekeeper, and I'm learning how to do things. So yeah, that went fairly well. Justin and I hiked up a favorite local mountain, probably air quotes around mountain. It's not that high, considering some of us, some people on this podcast have gone up Mount Fuji. But yeah, it's always nice to get out in nature and do things away from all the craziness of the world.
Absolutely. I think that was a reference to me, but I'm not positive.
You're not the only person who's climbed Mount Fuji, Cody.
That's true. Did you know they allow 4,000 people a day to climb it?
Wow.
2,000, 4,000 per trail. And there are 4 trails technically that will open by the full peak of the season. So that's a lot of people going up and down the mountain.
Wow.
I will say going not as much down, but going up, you passed and were passed by people far more often than I thought you would have in like such a kind of remote place. I was kind of surprised by that. It took me off guard, but well, my big thing I guess I did this week was throw a little surprise party for my wife for her 40th birthday, which is technically not for another day after this will air, but it was good. Went well in the end. We spent a lot of time prepping for it, and we Had some friends and family from both near and far come to the party. She was really shocked, I think, when her uncle and cousin from Nevada came through the door. That was a big shock for her. And then her sister and nephew and niece from Washington are staying with us right now. So she got a little family in there. And then she had some friends that were kind of all within, I'd say, an hour's drive, somewhere right around there. Yeah, it was good. We did big Chipotle catering order, and we did a couple cakes I got from a gluten-free bakery, and I also got them as vegan versions, so it was all the no's, gluten and egg and dairy and everything was not there, so that was kind of interesting thing, but everybody loved them. They were delicious. And then we played a little Karen trivia game to wrap up our evening. We were a little behind the schedule I was planning, but it was fun. Everybody had a good time, and Karen did win her trivia game at the end by a few points, I believe. So that's
She
good.
knows herself.
She knows her things that she likes, I guess. So
That's good.
but that was really good, yeah. So we did Era's theme, and everybody gave her a bracelet, as you guys know, because you did that as well. And some videos. She loved the videos from everybody, and the bracelets also. And I think she was looking at all of them again today a few more times. So I think they're a good memento for her, I believe, from the party. So
Cool.
Awesome.
yeah. So, all right. Well, we are here to talk about Joe Biden dropping out of the election. So this is big tonight, guys. How are we feeling about this? Oh my gosh. Justin, you work for the Heritage Foundation. What's your...
Well, all I'm saying is I'm drinking tonight. Take that as you will.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, a lot going on in the world. But tonight we're talking about Star Wars. So we're going to pause and go to a galaxy far, far away, I guess, for tonight and chat about the rest of the Acolyte. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, yay.
The break from the norm here, yes. So we saw the double episode premiere that came out earlier. We already reviewed our thoughts on those, so we have episodes 3 through 8 to finish up. Except there's one thing we've talked about in many of our podcasts, it's that all of these online streamers have some hard-on for the number 8. I don't know what that is all about, but apparently they felt that was the exact number needed here for this series as well, which I'm going to definitely argue with as we go through these, but... We saw the rest of our series here, just briefly recapping. This was kind of about some twin sisters, question mark? May and Osha. And we have some Jedis involved here. We have some witches involved here. And then we have some dark side of the Force involved here as well, which you could talk about if we're supposed to have a label on those. I'm not really positive on that, but... Let's talk about the plot first here. I'm not going to run through what happens in each episode, but were there some moments that stuck out to you guys, either for good or ridiculously bad in this story? The rest of the episodes here, 3 through 8, anything that kind of ingrained itself into your brain as just like, I can't believe that just happened, good or bad, or anything of that nature?
There was the bait and switch that wasn't a bait and switch, where it seemed like we were robbed of a Wookiee Jedi fight, and then later on we get a Wookiee Jedi fight. So I was really kind of upset by that initially, and then it's like, oh, okay, not the way I would have done this, but sure, we got it in the end. So I don't think I've ever had a show pull the rug out from under me and then like slide it back under my feet a few episodes later. That was interesting.
I'm going to argue that we still didn't get a proper Wookiee Jedi fight because at that point, Kalnaka was under mind control. So that might not have been how a Wookiee Jedi would fight under normal conditions.
Fair. Yeah. I will say on the subject of the fights, I liked most of the lightsaber battles in this, which is, I think, more than I can say about a lot of recent Star Wars projects. So positive there, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree. The fight scenes were, again, like most of these Star Wars shows we've seen, pretty well done. I feel like they're definitely getting better at like choreographing how the fights with the lightsabers work. I mean, we mentioned, I think, in maybe Ahsoka when we reviewed that, like, it's just far and away from like Obi-Wan and Vader, like, clanging their lightsabers together, you know, which was like a classic then, but those guys would both get smoked now against these new guys who are older than them, but time, you know,
and dead in this timeline, I'm sure.
and yeah, probably so. Yeah, there were some interesting things here that happened. I want to ask you guys. I'm just gonna zoom in on this because it's on my mind right now. Episode 7. So they make this kind of interesting choice, which is they spend most of this episode going back and showing us things we've already seen in this series with like extra snippets here and there to kind of flesh out, you know, maybe the pieces they withheld from us to begin with. But did you enjoy that, or did that bother you? I'm kind of curious.
I'll start with this one.
Yeah.
I really liked that episode. I think it was perhaps my favorite in the series because, yeah, we were seeing a lot of the same thing again, but we were getting, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. And I think it really explained a lot of the potential plot holes that you could drive a Corellian Corvette through in previous episodes. So also I did like the world building around the witches or whatever they were on Brendock. So I thought that was a very interesting episode.
It wasn't 40 minutes watching people assemble parts to the Death Star, so that was a plus. But yeah, I think by and large I do agree with Jesse. It's yes, it was stuff we'd already seen, and sometimes that can feel like it's, you know, kind of wasted time on the screen. But we did see enough behind the veil, so to speak, that it felt like, I don't want to say like an Akira Kurosawa Rashomon kind of thing, where you're seeing the same events from, you know, different perspectives and getting new insights. It wasn't that artful, but I do feel like it did a good job of filling in the story. In terms of exactly what happened during some of those events, I'm not sure I'm necessarily on board with, but you know, seeing the other side of the coin was kind of interesting, I thought.
Yeah, what exactly was the mother doing when she turned into that cloud and ended up getting stabbed by Soul?
Right.
Yeah. Was it an attack? Was it an escape?
Was she trying to eat her daughter? Because I think May or Osha, whichever one it was, she started sort of turning into smoke at the same time, I think. Yeah, I have no idea what was going on in that sequence either.
This was definitely not a Star Wars show that I finished and was like, well, I know all the answers to those questions. This one, I think for me, this one just felt a little repetitive in that we had so many of the same scenes that they went back to, which I think is fine if you're going to reveal some more information about those. But like, to dedicate a 40-minute episode to the reveal of those little snippets, I was like, oh, this is... It was okay for me. Now, I will say my wife watched it and was like, I didn't need that episode at all. And I was like, okay, I mean, sure, we would have lost those little plot things, but it was a long time to go back to the same exact scenes, same exact characters in those moments, I guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe they could have condensed all of that into one episode instead of spacing it out like they did, but...
Well, and we knew at the beginning that they had to have some secrets that they weren't telling us right away, because that was kind of, we talked about after the first 2 episodes, was there must be twists that we don't see coming yet in this show, right? Because we were like, it can't be as simple as like, good sister, bad sister, and they whatever.
I don't know. Early on, I compared it to an old Mary-Kate and Ashley movie where they're separated at birth, run into each other one summer, switch places, live each other's lives, etc. It had kind of that vibe after, I'd say, the first half of the show.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, considering they do actually change places at one point, yeah, I could see that.
Well, I mean, let's talk about them for a minute then, since we're talking already about their arc a little bit here. We have, at the beginning of the story, a pretty clear-cut, I guess I'll use the term heroic and evil in the, you know, lightest sense there, but we have May, who's kind of with the, I'm going to hesitate to throw the word Sith out, but I'm going to say the evil side. And then we had Osha, who had trained to be a Jedi for a while, and then ultimately went on to do something else, but seemed to be a good person at that point in the story. And then as this went on, we had, of course, the situation first, I think in episode 2 or 3, where Osha went undercover as May, but they hadn't seen each other yet. And then we have some moments later on in this 8-episode story where they actually have physically traded places, like they're prisoners basically of the opposite side. And then, of course, this all ends with Osha being the one who ultimately turns evil, and May sacrifices herself to let her sister go. I mean,
Yeah.
what's going on here with these two? Do we buy this? This is by either side. Either side, both of their sides were weird to me because I just didn't fully believe Osha would flip and be that evil by the end of this, and I also didn't believe that May would be so self-sacrificing to be like, "Well, my sister can just do this, and I'll, give up my memory of her to help her get away and be evil."
Yeah, it did feel like there were a fair number of plot points in that vein that we were just expected as viewers to just sort of go along with. Like when we get to say the Jedi, there's this whole, for half the show, there's this whole build up to they did something terrible that, necessitates May's looking to seek revenge against them and whatnot. And it's building up, and it's got to be this big, terrible thing. And really, they show up, sure, they hack a door to get in and whatnot instead of like announcing themselves. But then for the time they're there, they seem very level-headed for the most part. They're trying to engage in discussion, and it doesn't really seem like they do enough to warrant that kind of aggression. I mean, sure, the place ended up burning down, but that wasn't them doing it. I mean, and yes, they killed one of the witches, but she was turning into like a smoke demon. So it's like I would have flipped out at that too, probably. So it just didn't feel like that was a great payoff. And I think it's the same sort of thing with the Osha May thing, how they ended up. It just didn't feel like it was earned, I guess.
Yeah, Jess, any thoughts on the two of them?
Oh gosh. It was certainly different than your average Star Wars story. Yeah, how it turned out, I'm still undecided on that. But I will say in the first flashback episode, I had the two sisters reversed for most of that episode. And I'm not entirely sure it made a difference. Being confused. Yeah.
It's high praise.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I think I see where. Yeah, I can kind of agree with where you're coming from there. It did feel like there were times the writing certainly could have been fine-tuned a bit more to.
Yes.
Yeah, to make them more distinct and to make us more engaged.
So my wife was like, wasn't there a part like in episode 1 or 2 when they were starting that initiation ritual with the witches, and they like May performed it, and they like made basically like a symbol on like her forehead or something.
Yeah.
But Osha never did that, and like that symbol being on one of their foreheads was not a plot point for anybody else in the show, the rest of the show.
Right. Yeah.
Well, like, see, they had bangs, so you couldn't really see
no,
them.
I'm glad you brought that up, because then they had this hair, which was kind of like dreads that were like their bangs, and there was like that one really over dramatic scene where the one like took her lightsaber and was like, bzzz,
oh yeah,
which also served no purpose at anywhere in the plot past that point.
Very
and also,
true.
Apparently, in this universe, burnt hair doesn't smell like anything, because you think Soul would have noticed the stench of burnt hair, clinging to her after that.
Yeah, I don't fully invest in the story of the two girls, unfortunately. I don't think they did a terrible job acting, but their plot in the story of the two girls I thought was kind of, I don't know, I didn't buy into it by the end, I guess, which is unfortunate. What did you think of? We'll talk about some other points here in a second, but what did you think about the moment where Osha somehow changes the color of her lightsaber? Presumably by using the Force? Question mark.
Oh, go ahead and take that one, honey. I know you've got opinions on that.
That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. 'Cause it's okay. It was either the Force, which we've never seen done before, and there's no real reason for it. It was her emotions, which we've seen plenty of people turn to the dark side before, and their lightsabers didn't just change color in the process.
Yeah.
Or witch magic? I don't know. Yeah, it was unnecessary because we've seen bad people use, the lightsabers they had when they were good, and that in a way is a more, I think anyway, a more striking image because it shows what they had been, and it's and it highlights how they've fallen instead of just like, oh, the beam is red now, red is bad, we're in Transformers territory now. So yeah, I didn't like that at all.
That part bothered me a little bit, I will say. Just I get they're like, oh, this will be like a visually striking memory that people could take from this show, and it sure is, but maybe not as they intended.
Right, yeah, especially considering how a lot of the fan base is so caught up with the little details. Having the crystal and the lightsaber change color, I don't think that was a very good decision on the producer's part.
Yeah,
it definitely seemed off to me. I don't know.
Speaking of lightsaber weirdness, if I can do an aside, episode, whichever one it was, with like the first big lightsaber battle on the planet, there's a couple of points where the evil guy, the quote unquote Sith, he like shatters the beams. What did you think about that?
The lightsabers you're talking about, like he's like breaking lightsabers.
It's like he either like it's like his gauntlet, or like they go to hit him in his helmet, and it's just like the beam just kind of goes, and it's like glass or something, and then they're like hitting the handles for a couple seconds before it'll pop back on.
Yeah, I guess I saw that part, but I guess I didn't fully think about what was actually happening in that part. I will say this series had more lightsaber malfunctions than the rest of Star Wars put together. People were like chopping them and breaking them, and yeah, like you were saying, they were like trying to find the restart button on them. I guess must have been run by Windows 365 or something. I guess I don't know, but yeah. Well, let's talk about that bad guy for a second. So I'm going to say the first. Well, not the first, but a jarring negative for me on this show is the fact that I finished the 8 episodes and I was like, I don't know what his name was. So now I will say we watched the 2 of these before we went to Japan. We got home and we binged like 3, 4, 5, 6, I think, and then we did watch 7, 8 on schedule again. So maybe that has something to do with my viewing, but
no, I was looking at
yeah.
We have the subtitles on when we watch shows, even when they're in English.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, the subtitle for him was The Stranger.
Mr. Bad.
Yeah.
They were like, we'll get around to that later, and then they never did.
Yeah.
I will say, I didn't think it was going to be him behind the mask. Initially, I thought it was going to be one of the witches, like the pale-skinned one. She was always the one who was most like adamant about the Jedi being terrible and all that.
That could have been cool.
Yeah, I will say the one point I can give the show in its favor for making that guy the one behind the mask is because it explains why he was able to beat May in a fight when he was just being billed as like her supplier or like her fence.
Okay.
Because there's the part in like the market or whatever, or the alleyway by the market where they get into a fight. He just like completely wipes the floor with her.
Right.
And at least that makes sense now.
Yeah, which I think you did point out in that earlier episode, did you not?
I think so, yeah. And so I'm glad at least they didn't just leave that as, oh, he's inexplicably remarkably good at martial arts and she's a terrible assassin. But they actually gave a reason. So that I was okay with. Everything else is like, I don't know how I feel about this guy.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I kind of have mixed feelings on him as well, where like I did enjoy a lot of like the morality he was talking about with like he made some compelling arguments about why the Jedi weren't, everything they were cracked up to be, especially maybe at this point in the Star Wars universe history, which was really, really far back. So like at that point they would have been basically like paragons of religious perfectry,
Mhm.
But I don't know that he said enough to persuade either of the girls that he was talking to. I don't know. Jess, you had some in there?
Um, this might be a completely different point on the Jedi in this series.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like there were parts of this that really harkened back to how the Jedi were portrayed in episode 8.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Attention perked. I'm listening.
there was a lot of negativity about the Jedi in this, where, the three of us are old enough that we grew up with the heroic Jedi, always doing good, saving the galaxy, etc. Sometimes having trouble, like in The Empire Strikes Back, but ultimately they do good and they win. The other thing, harkening back to episode 8, is back in that movie, we never got to see Snoke do anything. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then there's, oh, she's going to fight Kalnaka? No, he's already dead. Yeah, so I suppose there's the message of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the Jedi do have a lot of power in the Old Republic at this point. So yeah, they didn't necessarily do good, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to root against Soul.
Kind of feels like the Jedi are like the Justice Department, and the senators are just not happy with them. That would never happen.
Yeah.
All right.
It feels to do an analogy for building off of what Jesse said. It feels like the Jedi, when they were first introduced, in the good old days, for lack of a better term, they were kind of analogous to Superman. They were the force of good. Unquestionably, they always had the right interests of the downtrodden and the vulnerable at heart. And even when the stakes were high, they would try to rise to the occasion and do what was right.
Mm-hmm.
What they're trying to portray the Jedi now, it's more akin to like Batman, perhaps, or if you want to be even more cynical about it, The Boys, where it's on the surface they're these heroes, these people you're supposed to look up to, but under you scrape just a little bit, and all of a sudden they're just not great people. And I don't know if I like that message, because at that point, who do we root for? Like, are we supposed to root for the space witches? Like, they were just kind of off doing their own thing, and yeah, it was kind of weird, but I don't really see them as being heroic.
Heroic, yeah.
It's just, I don't know, and it feels like they're really trying to muddy the Jedi for some reason, just maybe to try and add some level of complexity to this formerly very straightforward story of good versus evil. I don't know, but it just I don't know if it fits.
Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe there's some sort of political statement about how Jedi are this force that we always expect to be good, and here they went and committed genocide on a planet.
It's possible, but does it make a good story in terms of like the framework that it's set? I guess is kind of the question. Like, sure, that message can be important, but is it Star Wars? And I don't know.
That's a fair
Well,
criticism.
yeah, I mean, to go with another political statement in Star Wars, I mean, Rogue One, blowing up a desert town. Huh? Yeah, seems like
Yeah,
something along those lines happened around when that movie came out too.
but I
Um, did you also think the Jedi in this show were, for lack of a better term, just bland, bumbling idiots? So we had
yes,
Carrie Ann Moss's character who died right away in the first episode, other than flashbacks. We had a cool chance to see like a Wookiee Jedi in action, which didn't really deliver exactly as we had hoped. Soul had great like morality. We could talk about him a little bit more here in a minute, like
Hmm.
the heart of the show. But beyond that, everybody else was just like a wiener in this show. Like it was Star Wars was making a Jedi temple putting out red shirts. Like it was terrible. They were bland. They had no personality. They seemed like they were bumbling novices at what they were doing.
yep.
Yeah, yeah, and the one that knew Osha, who got his
Yeah,
neck snapped,
Oh,
I can't think of his name either.
Yord, something like
Yeah,
that.
Yord. I think
something
that
like,
sounds right.
yeah, yeah, he had a little bit of depth to his character, but mostly he was just like, "Rrr, I'm
Yeah.
angry. Rawr."
And then there was that other guy, the spindly little guy, who's I don't know if we even got his name, but he was following around in the flashback sequences. I think he was following around Carrie Ann Moss's character, and he just seemed like he had no idea what he was doing, or oh god, maybe that was in the present day. But yeah, yeah, thin guy. He seemed like he was very inept. He had
Yeah, he
like
was like
maybe
a redhead or something, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Was that the
he was
Padawan?
hopeless.
No, the Padawan was like the little pale skinned girl. With
Oh, no,
the
no, Carrie Ann Moss's Padawan
oh yes,
that
Mm.
May gave the poison to in the temple to kill him.
Oh,
um,
Master Torben.
Yes, Master Torben.
um, I think this was
Must have been in the present. You're probably talking about the one that was following the bald lady around.
okay. Yes, yes, I got them. Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
I'm glad you two have better memories of this than I do. Uh,
it's okay.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying too. Is like we watched the whole show and there's only like a few characters I could name in this, which I don't think
yeah,
is a good sign.
right, yeah.
fair.
Or you can sum up their character in a sentence or two, like Jackie, the white uh the white, very white faced female Padawan, little horns on her forehead. Yeah, young and hopeful and tries her best and dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
at least she's in Deadpool and Wolverine. We just found out thanks to the latest trailer. So there we go.
Ah,
woo!
She's
okay.
back. She's back reliving her character from Logan, believe it or not. So I'm
Oh, no
excited for
kidding.
that. Yeah, she was the little girl
Wow.
on Logan. So,
Okay,
Nice, nice.
but
cool.
yeah, they just seemed like they were not a team that I was really caring about, especially the ones that were there for most of the show, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah,
I did enjoy
yeah.
the mask the bad guy had. I thought that was a cool helmet that he had with the
Yes,
like little silver thing that looked like a death
that was
smile.
creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought
that
that
was
was
kind of
really
cool.
cool. They could have kept it on him, honestly, and just made us wonder who it was. Well,
Yeah.
Hmm.
to that matter, can we talk big jump here, but can we talk about the two little quick cameos they threw in, one of which probably maybe we can assume who that was supposed to be, and one of which I don't know if I'm supposed to have any idea who it was supposed to be. So at the very end shot of this series, we get, I'm guessing, Yoda? Question mark?
Yep. I don't think there were any other characters of his race aside from Grogu, and I doubt that was Grogu.
Because we got to, who was that? The bald lady that went to go see her master, and it was him, right? Is that how that
I think
ended?
Yes.
so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like that was did that do anything for this series to have that in there?
Uh, I would I would say it establishes where in the timeline it is. If you're just a casual viewer,
Hmm.
like I would say I'm a casual viewer. I've seen all the movies, the
Mhm.
Star Wars Holiday Special. I grew up with the Ewok era of it, and I've seen a few of the shows. So yeah, I'd call myself a casual viewer, and
Mhm.
it at least puts where this is in the timeline for me.
Okay.
That's fair. It felt like just to me, it felt like just fan service. In all honesty, it's like, okay, you sat through all this. Let me jingle my keys in front of your face for a little bit, just as a payoff. Yeah,
That's funny.
Yeah, it is also very fan servicey,
yeah.
which The Stranger also was. I'd just like to throw that out there. I mean, yeah, to heck with Solo. What's his face? Kylo Ren, there we
Oh,
go.
Kylo Ren.
God.
Yeah, no. The Stranger is probably the best looking Sith type dude that we have gotten for eye candy
Fair
in the
enough.
entire franchise.
You didn't like the Palpatines floating in the tank?
Hey, you laugh, but somebody out there has a fetish for just that thing.
Good on them.
And he's not hosting tonight. All right, let's move on. Um,
Don't
What a-
die out there, hon.
yeah. So, what about we have this other little scene where we have apparently this stranger, the Sith guy we keep referring to as Qimir, Qimir. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Qmir's planet. But we have a moment where he is with, I believe, Osha, and they're walking to the spaceship to fly off the planet. And we have like a 1 second of like some creepy dude like peering out of a cave at them.
Oh yeah,
I
him.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing came of
Justin
that.
and I discussed
Yeah,
that, and
what the
it's like,
heck?
did we see him before in this series? Who
Nope.
was that?
Not that I saw, at least.
Was
Huh.
that?
I forgot all about that. It was so inconsequential that I didn't even remember it happened.
I'm on IGN right now, and they are speculating that maybe that was Darth Plagueis, who's like a really early Sith guy.
Oh, sure. He gets mentioned in the prequel trilogy, doesn't he? Or something.
so.
He might, yeah. But that was all we got. It was like the 1 second, and nothing happened. He was never referenced. The other guy, Stranger Qimir, never made any reference to like him having a master, did he?
No,
So what was the what?
I don't know.
What?
I have no idea. That was
Meh.
yeah.
When they
Yeah.
showed him, I was like, because I think that was episode. I forget now if that was 7 or 8, but when they showed him, I was like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna get something big that happens at the end of this show." Nope,
And it's gone. Yeah.
and it's gone. So I don't know if that was supposed to be a little teaser for like a season 2 of this show. Is there going to be a
Oof.
season 2 of this? I mean, OSHA's running away
Oof.
evil now. I guess there could be.
Don't think the show did well enough in the ratings to
Ugh.
get a season 2.
I hope
Maybe
not,
they're trying to
especially
something,
with Soul Dead. I mean, he was the most interesting character.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's talk
definitely,
about him
yeah.
for a minute. How did you think that character and that actor did? We kind of praised him in the first one. I think we mentioned this is Lee Jung-jae, and he basically learned English to play this role we had mentioned before. What'd you think?
Mad props.
Yeah. I honestly think he was the soul of this show. No
Ha.
pun intended.
There we go.
No, screw it all on that one. But no, he was the most defined character for the most part. He was the most likable. He is part of what kept me going, in all honesty.
He had some moments where I was like, this guy's very emotionally, like, I enjoy him, but there were some times when I was like, this guy is also pretty dumb. Like, he doesn't realize this just happened, or this person is this person, or...
There was that, yeah. Or it's
But,
like, oh, he's got the force powers to hold up 2 bridges. Couldn't he have just grabbed each of the girls on the bridges who weigh significantly less and like held them up rather than letting one of them fall to save the other?
That's a good point.
I never thought of that. That's hilarious.
Thanks.
That's
But
yeah.
that again goes back to how the Jedi were written in this, and
Yeah.
they were done dirty, just kind of across the board, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, Lee Jung-jae, coincidentally, I'm reading a book about K-dramas,
Okay.
and he's actually a really big K-drama actor going all the way back to the 90s when he
Oh,
was sometimes a heartthrob
okay.
Whoa.
in Korean dramas. Yeah, so yeah, introducing him to worldwide audiences with Squid Game and then uh, getting him acting in English with the Acolyte. Um, he's just proving that even though he's in his 50s now, he's
Wow.
still really got game
Yeah.
Um,
internationally, which is phenomenal for him.
I wonder if some of the casting then was to try to get some of the Asian market to look at the series then based on that. I didn't know that. I only knew it from Squid Game, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I gotta ask this, and there's no way to ask this and make it sound great, but hear out what I'm trying to say. This is my wife's comment actually,
Oh no.
because when we were watching this, she was like, "I don't buy that guy as a Jedi," and I was basically like, "How come?" And she said, "Because we've never seen anybody in the galaxy far, far away struggle with English. Like either they speak English or they don't speak
Oh.
English. And there's never been like, there is no other language introduced in the galaxy that you'd be like, oh, I have to switch to this to speak it." So that was her point. Like she didn't mean it as like a, racist thing or anything like that, but just like we haven't had somebody who had trouble speaking the language that everyone speaks in the entire galaxy there.
I will counter that with Master Kolnaka.
The
The
Wookiee?
Wookiee. The
Well,
Wookiee.
sure, yes. There's
Yeah, I mean,
Wookiee.
he understands English,
Yeah.
but he does not speak English. And back in the days of the Acolyte, you did have far more Jedi, so they might not have been speaking English, or what would it have been? Corellian?
Shrug.
Shrug.
The
Yeah.
common tongue.
The common tongue, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll,
I
we'll
mean-
go with that.
I mean, the series is kind of notorious for having, droids that beep and boop and things that make different noises and things like that, which I guess you could say are all languages, but...
Yeah, didn't C-3PO speak like 23 different languages?
Oh, yeah, he does
Or
say something
something
like
like
that. I am
ton,
fluent in so many blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess there is some of that out there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And the Hutts, I mean, Jabba the Hutt didn't speak
Oh,
English
yeah.
or the common tongue. So
Yeah, true. That's true.
Yeah, now a human character, I think she's got a fairly reasonable point there that every human that we've seen in the galaxy long, long ago and far away has spoken English.
cool. Huh, I never thought of that.
I hadn't either. Like, it's just none of her brain works different than me. And she was like, there's this. I was like, okay. All right, let's talk about the character who really tied this entire show together and made it worthwhile. Probably going to bump a few points on your rating scale. What'd you all think of Basil?
He was interesting for the first couple episodes he was in, and then I don't know what the heck he was doing
What was he doing?
Yeah, when he sabotaged Soul's ship.
Yeah, like what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know,
We
to make it
never
go
get-
slower. It was weird.
Yeah, and
We
you,
never
I mean,
get an explanation for that.
no, and you can never
Yeah.
really like read his facial expressions or his mannerisms or anything like you can with some aliens in
Yeah.
the Star Wars universe. He always just looked like he was pissed off or constipated or something. It's just like I could never get was he like in any given scene, was he angry? Was he confused? I had no idea.
I
And
don't
the
know.
directions didn't clarify that. Yeah.
That was kind of a sad miss to me because when they introduced him, I was like, okay, here's this super cool, like, little tracker fun side character who's going to be great in some moments. And then, like, he would disappear, he'd pop up at, like crossroads, run past someone, and then, he'd be gone again for 20 minutes. And you're like, what is going on with this guy? I don't...
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, go ahead.
He definitely wasn't the your typical sidekick bumbling droid that we typically get with Star Wars.
Yeah.
We didn't, I mean, we had Pipsqueak, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
he couldn't do much.
yeah, they were really lacking on the droids in the
Mm.
Acolyte.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
But yeah,
interesting.
with Basil, I there were times it's like, do the other characters even remember he's around? Because he would just like you said, he would just peace out, and then no one would react. It's almost like it was clear he was entirely CGI.
Yeah.
Ooh.
They didn't even know he was there, poor guy. What did you make of the ending with, I guess they're calling him Khmer here, and Osha holding hands at the end? Is this like a romance that's happening? Did you see that coming? Is it believable? What's going on here?
I think it was
Stockholm syndrome.
more. I think it was more a mentor taking the hand of a youngling.
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah, because I mean, sure, there was the whole like scene where he was bathing and whatnot, and
Rar.
sure, they might have been trying to set that up as like the start of a possible romantic interest or something, but I just didn't buy it. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like it developed in any way that wasn't ham-fisted and kind of forced, you know.
Yeah.
So hopefully it was just like the master student kind of thing and not them looking to bone.
Or if they were, then they should have done something different time-wise.
Right, to build it up more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But then again, how much build-up can you have in 8 episodes?
It's a pretty good
Well, that gets us
question.
back to
Well, yeah, we had 2 flashback episodes showing us the same thing in an
Yeah.
8-episode series. Yeah, well, okay.
It still
Let's
tastes
see.
better than a few things, but yeah.
Trying to see what else we have in this one here. So, do the Sith just have the power to erase memories now? Is that something we're doing, or was that a lost art form like after this?
And wow, they went back a long way on what memories she kept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember there ever being anything quite like that being used in the other Star Wars material I've seen.
Yeah, the closest you get is these are not the droids you are looking for.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just like a temporary thing to, cloud the minds of the weak or whatever, not to just say, pull out a neuralizer and you don't remember anything, that kind of Men in
Yeah,
Black
yeah,
crap.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
interesting.
I don't
Yeah,
know, it felt like
is it world building or is it bad writing?
yeah,
Yeah,
is it something that adds to the universe, or is it the lightsaber changing color because she got angry? I mean, that's a very good point.
I don't know. This is also the problem when you do a prequel series, right? Because you're like, we're introducing things that aren't around after this. So
Yep. So why aren't they being used? Yeah.
only that one random guy who made potions for her knew how to do this. Everyone in the whole galaxy.
I will say I almost called foul on the lightsaber whip thing, but I googled that and apparently those actually are an established thing. They're just not very common.
What
Similarly,
are?
the lightsaber whip thing that
That was
the
awesome.
ball-
When
yeah,
was not used very long, but it was awesome.
yeah, and apparently, there is a precedent for that. So it's like, okay, that I can buy. Same with a Wookiee Jedi, because I had never seen one before, but I looked it up, and apparently there have been other Wookiee Jedi. So it's like,
As well,
okay,
there should be.
that's what there should be.
Yeah.
So they didn't make up as much as I was afraid they were, but some of the stuff they did just doesn't feel like it fits.
Did you enjoy that they went back and explained how May survived when she fell in the fire?
Oh yeah, got sucked into the air vent.
Just as like they didn't leave it as an empty plot hole.
I mean, it's better than nothing. It's
Yeah,
not just like suddenly she's here, yeah. So
yeah. I liked how they were like starting down, and Osha's like, "You went down here," and she's like, "Oh yeah, we just got to climb like here to that vent, and then we'll get in." And then the camera showed they were like 200 feet away on a straight wall with like no finger grips, and they're like, "We'll just go down this wall," and then we see them like jumping into the vent, and I was like, "Okay,
Hmm. I do
Sure.
find it a little hard to believe that, it was just May who started that entire fire that engulfed the entire facility.
yeah, right."
Like, sure, it did look like there were wood supports and stuff, so it could have traveled, but the entire facility, I no fire suppression systems at all or methods to try and contain something like that. It's just the coven did not feel like it was set up in a sensible fashion for a long-term settlement, in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yes. Also, I'm sorry, but May burned everyone. It wasn't the Jedi that were. May burned.
Yes,
everyone.
exactly.
And then Osha's like, "Oh, okay, I guess you're right. It was the Jedi's fault." And I'm like, "No,
No.
like even if they did kill one or two people, like your sister burned the entire thing to the ground."
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and really, regarding what's his face, the Torben, the guy who was a Padawan then,
Yeah,
he just wanted to go home, and then they start messing around in his head,
yeah, that's a good point.
and suddenly he's as culpable as the rest of them. He didn't even want to be there.
That guy really got screwed over, boy. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't even want to.
Yeah.
It's my day off, and I'm supposed to be here today.
Yeah.
What did you think of let's talk about the bald Jedi, Vernestra Rao, Wroh. What did you think of that character / I'm curious what you thought of the ending when she basically threw Soul under the bus and was like, it was entirely him. We took care of him. Rogue Jedi.
What a politician.
Yeah?
Yes.
A Jedi politician, yeah.
Yeah. And it does kind of play into the whole the writers trying to make the Jedi less perfect, for better or worse. And it's just another example of that. One that I feel is more believable than some of the others. Because yes, at this point in the Star Wars history, from what I understand, the Jedi were sort of a quasi political force, as well as like the peacekeeping and religious force that they were, from what I understand. So it makes sense that if she valued her standing, that she would try to do that. So I didn't hate it. It made me dislike her more as a character, but it seemed believable.
Okay.
And it was also hearkening to, again, I'm forgetting Carrie Ann Moss's character's name, but she basically gave similar orders to Soul about, and we are just going to tell them this happened.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
That is interesting because all of the younger Jedi are like, but this is the rule. And the older Jedi are like, yes, we know, but once you're up here, you just kind of
we do things differently.
I didn't put this together, but I'm on a different arc on IGN now here and there talking about, we do see the stranger, Kamir. He has that, I think when he's swimming maybe, or maybe there's a different scene where we saw that big scar on his back.
Oh yeah, and Osha asks about it, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't put it together, but the person who wrote this article here is saying that it looks very much like a whip-shaped scarf, like you'd get from a whip. And he was the Padawan of Vernestra, the bald lady. So this might be evidence that she was like trying to kill him, abusive. I don't know,
Huh.
And we never got down that path. They never really talked about the relationship between those two, other than just like 1 second of like when we found out that he was her old Padawan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think again might be them trying to, play their cards close to their chests, hoping to explain more in season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah.
Or a separate show?
Oh man, that's entirely possible.
Oh boy.
Who knows?
And the thing is, if you're banking on that, you need to make sure that your characters, and ideally also your plot, are engaging enough that people will stick around that long. And I don't know, like case in point, what you were saying earlier, Cody, about not knowing half these people's names. I think they dropped the ball on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which leaves us with like a bunch of unanswered questions that probably never will be answered because they didn't drum up enough interest to keep the story going, which sucks all around. So
Last thing I have here is I did see some outcry over this online for this show, which is I forget who establishes this in the lore. Oh, was it Yoda? Or it's back in the original trilogy, but essentially somebody in the Jedi Council, or was it they talking to Luke? I don't remember. But anyway, it's been long established that the Sith can have two. They call it the rule of two in Star Wars, right? It's a master and apprentice.
Right.
I forget who says the line exactly.
Yeah.
But this show has now potentially three. If the person we saw peek out of the cave was really Kamir's master, and then Kamir now has seemingly his own Padawan who turned her lightsaber red when she got excited, then Osha would be three. So I don't know if this is hard
Okay.
cast or...
Okay, so in that case, maybe would be a second season where Osha and her master train and take on this creepy looking dude who was peeking out of a crevice.
Maybe, but I don't know.
I don't think there's enough of a story there, but yeah, the rule of two is an interesting point.
Yeah, I never terribly liked that myself, but it is canon. So, but yeah, I hadn't actually thought of that mainly because I had no idea who the guy, the creeper, the peeper guy that we were talking about. I had no idea who he was supposed to be. I thought maybe he was like a bounty hunter or just
Ooh.
someone who was, a nefarious sort who happened to catch on, catch a glimpse of all this and was trying to wheedle his way in, but we never find out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if he's if in a theoretical season 2, if it's focused around him, that's a really, really weak link to build off of. It's like, hey, remember that guy peeking around the corner? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
8 episodes about that guy. Like,
Yeah, maybe he's supposed to be some sort of Easter egg for, I don't know, someone who shows up in episode 357 of the Clone Wars or something like that.
I was trying everything else into that. Why not?
It's a great question. I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't know. I guess I have to mention one more point. I said that was it, but the Jedi really indicated that like these girls were not even girls at all. Like they were never born, that they had been created of energy from, I don't know if they said the word convergence or something with virgins in the word, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Just virgins.
The
without
virgins.
The virgins,
Yeah.
okay. And what's going on here? We're just like making people out of nowhere now? Like, is this, oh my gosh, we got all
That
these
is
midichloriated
strange.
references here. We got all kinds of stuff going on.
I was going to say, they mentioned, someone says the term M count at one point, and then this shit
Yep.
shows up. And
What's your
that,
M count?
I
Went to the
did
doctor.
not like this development at
Yeah.
all. Because
We
it's like,
couldn't
okay,
have just have left that in episode 1 since it never shows back up.
well, also, like, okay, midichlorians aside, so the Force can just make life now. So it's not just like, okay, one instance. No, it's creating entire ecosystems, which
Mhm.
I don't like that, because it's a matter of you're seeing stuff it just on this planet with all this lush greenery and whatnot. Like it has a feeling of history, of having developed over time. But no, the Force just made it out of whole cloth, and it just doesn't feel like that. Like if it was just life spontaneously coming into being, and it's that much life, you think there would be a lot more freshness to it. Like that planet felt like it had developed naturally over millennia, if not millions of years. If it was life that had just been created by a virgins very quickly, I would have thought there would have been a bit more chaos to it. Like, animals and plants trying to figure out where they fit in instead of already having their niches perfectly suited to them. I don't like the virgins thing. I don't like it at all.
No, I agree.
The Force. talk about the Force and the Virgins brought to mind something to go back to a previous statement. Okay, in Rogue One, you've got the monk type guy. I am the Force and the Force is with me.
Yeah.
He also didn't have a total grasp on English as a first language either.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
So there is precedence.
That's a good catch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, well, why wouldn't the Force be able to create life? Because there's so many other things it can do.
Well, I mean,
Is it the force of the universe? I mean,
we have, famously Anakin's mom, right? There was no father. Just this spontaneous Jesus that was born inside her.
Yep.
I don't know. Just felt weird that they were like, and we're gonna make 2 daughters. Also, it was confusing too because I felt like they were twin sisters, and then they were implying that they were this. I thought for a while they were implying they were one person that was split.
Yeah.
I thought that was the angle they were going for, but then they were like, "Nah, we just like made them with this energy."
And for some reason, they just look identical.
And we are never going to know.
Yeah. And I did read through that link that you sent in the chat there, and that is interesting. Another example of the established lore and how this show just kind of feels like it's doing whatever it wants with it.
Yeah.
So go figure.
All right. What do you guys have? Anything else that I didn't get to tonight? We hit far more points there than I was thinking we were going to do, but we did them all.
Which is great.
We are efficient.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we hit most of the important bits. So yeah, if you want to get to like slapping a rating on this thing, I'm down for that.
Let's do it. Let's put some numbers on this bad boy. Anybody want to go first out of 10? Or I can, doesn't matter.
I'll take points on this one.
Okay.
So I know collectively we've all given this show a fair amount of shit during the course of this retrospective. But despite that, this is by no means the worst Star Wars property I've seen in recent years. I'd almost hazard to say that despite all its flaws, it's one of the better things that's come out, in the Disney era. I'm not saying it's good, but it was watchable for the most part. There were a few slow parts, and there were definitely some times where they played very fast and loose with the lore. But it did a fair amount that at least was engaging in the moment, and the fights were good. It was, there were certain scenes that did kind of capture the old, I think, like Jesse said, the old Jim Henson feel of Star Wars with like the critters in the background and the way some of the scenes looked and on the planets and whatnot. But at the same time, this show has a weird balance, and not in a good way. Like for every engaging part, every part that was fun, there was another part that felt like it just tripped over itself, or it did something that was just downright that just didn't work. So given that, I think I have to give it just a middle of the road 5 out of 10, because it didn't do anything particularly spectacularly, and its flaws weren't as bad as in something like, say, Ahsoka or Episode 8, where there were things that gall me to this day about both of those things that, just plot holes you could fly a Star Destroyer through. This, it didn't feel like it tripped up that badly, but it also, will I remember much about it in a year's time? Probably not. So yeah, very middle of the road, disposable popcorn kind of show, 5 out of 10.
Okay, I would say, yeah, it is better as popcorn than as something that you go through and analyze and go, ooh. There's very good casting. There's pretty good world building. I, for one, liked the space witches and seeing some other planets that we haven't before. Um, and again, a Wookiee Jedi. Um, on the other hand, you do have some plot holes. I would have liked to have seen more Wookiee Jedi actual fighting. But if you compare it to other Disney franchise Star Wars, it's better than a lot of it. Nothing's going to be as good as Return of the Jedi, of course, or Star Wars Holiday Special. But I would say I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, to me, it didn't quite feel like a chore to watch the episodes, but it was definitely one that didn't grab me as much as some of the other series have, a la Mandalorian or possibly even Ahsoka. I don't know. I guess to me, this is kind of more in the like Obi-Wan miniseries area, which was kind of middle of the road for me as well. They just had a lot of decisions in this that I feel like didn't necessarily make sense or pay off. Some weird character arcs in here for sure. Sometimes that I feel like they just introduced things into the world that, even as like a Star Wars fan, I don't feel like made sense within the context of the Star Wars galaxy or universe. Positives, yes, I did like Master Soul. I did think I didn't even see what her name was. I already closed the webpage, but the one who played Osha and May, I thought she did a really decent job as the actor of the two characters. Again, it was just that their plot was a little strange overall. Basil saved the series for me. There's no doubt about that. He was the highlight. No, and then, if you're going to end this series with like the big tease of Yoda, and would that mean Yoda would be in a season 2? Like, that raises a lot of questions. Like a slightly younger, slightly more spry Yoda, maybe, in this one.
Doing CGI flips again.
Yeah. Or maybe we find out who this cave Sith Master Lord / bounty hunter / random guy who lived on a planet that was like, why is this guy taking nude baths on my planet? What is happening here? Don't really know. Cool. Yeah. We'll get a flashback next season, like the guy went in the pool and just peed in it before the guy swam in it.
Oh.
Ha, 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 ha. Oh. But yeah, I'm going to actually match Justin on this one. I also gave this a 5 out of 10 even. Just was okay. And I want my Star Wars to be a little better than okay.
Yeah.
If they keep putting this kind of stuff out, then I can see why Dave and Joe no longer watch Star Wars properties, because they're just so disappointed in it at this point. So, yeah, they both have quit. If you didn't know that, Jess, they both refuse to watch Star Wars things, which is even funnier because they're on the opposite ends of the episode 8 debate. And no, the only thing that could get them to agree was their new hatred of Star Wars. So.
Dang.
Yeah.
All the Star Wars stuff has been Brett and Justin and I.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I knew Joe's stance on episode 8. I didn't realize Dave's. So, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
Disney needs to stop messing up Star Wars for people. Jeez.
Yes,
they really do. They really do.
I agree. Well, let's see. That's 17 collectively for us, divided by 3. What's that? 5 and 2/3?
I believe so.
Okay, that's going to be a contender for not a good award at the end of the year, but we'll log it in here and see where that goes. All right. Anything else from you guys tonight? Thanks to Jess for filling in for us here tonight. Brett had to
happy to
cancel
do
on
so.
us. So, and as we mentioned, Dave and Joe don't watch anymore, so that's that. Okay, I have no idea what our next episode is on. So I don't know if we've figured that out yet, so we'll have to talk about that here next couple days, and maybe we'll just do political speculation.
Push comes to shove. Ah,
Push come to shove. Maybe we'll know. Maybe the next episode we'll know who the Democrats already have as their nominee.
oh,
I
maybe,
don't
yeah.
know how quick that process will play out. So
It's got to be pretty quick, I think, because
they'll figure it out on like November 1st.
uh, they just have like
Oh.
a chicken on a mat with like the various faces of the possible people, and it's just like whichever one it picks, that's who it'll be.
Now you're going to see Joe
Uh,
Biden's long game of he's going to like muddle the process so much that they can't actually select anybody before the election. So he's back in.
oh,
Stick with JV.
oh
There we
man.
go.
At any rate,
Good times, everybody. Good times.
yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll wrap this up here today. All you fondlings and fondlers, this has been another episode here of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. This is Cody, that's Justin, and that's Jess, and we are out of here tonight. We'll see you later.
May the force be with you.
And also with you.
And also the people who write the new Star Wars properties. Hey, fondlings and fondlers. This has been another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, your favorite podcast. It's most people's favorite podcast, or at least so my mom tells me. You can check us out all over the place online at our homepage, www.fondpod.com or fondpodcast.com. You can also check us out across your social media sites, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your streamed podcast. Thanks so much.